Ring you by Rena Arcus. Yes, hello, Miss Arcus. It's Mr. Hussain here.
Good morning, Mr. Hussain. So I understand that you wanted to talk to me about a new complaint, is that right?
That is correct, yes. And I do understand that you don't want to digress into other issues that we've discussed in the past, but as you can appreciate, I just need to ask if there's been any further update.
No. As I mentioned before, as soon as I hear, I will let you know. So you don't. I will actually contact you in writing.
Okay. It's a case of.
Don't worry about it. As soon as I hear, you will let me know. Yes.
Okay, all right. Is it a case of don't call us, we'll call you?
Well, it's up to you. I've mentioned that before, Mr. Hussain. But you told me that you prefer to ring. But I am more than happy to let you know as soon as I hear.
Yes, I understand, but this is the conversation that we had back in October, and then obviously from November onwards, I've not contacted you for over several months, and then subsequently, I'm now only making inquiries on a weekly basis, and I'm still not having any joy. Could you advise me on how I could precipitate advancement on this issue?
As I said last time, which is probably last week, last week, I have spoke to legal, to senior management in legal, and they are on the case, and it's been done CAP. They realize there's a delay, and they apologize for that. But as I said, they've got
not a problem.
More pressing situations in legal, as you can, as I mentioned before. So they are currently working on that. So
I understand, but the problem I have, I think I've included you in several emails, is because this is now seriously affecting my ability to do my job, or my duties, particularly with liaising with health authorities, because as you can appreciate, very recently a health worker or somebody from the trust was feeling very uncomfortable knowing the fact that they were in my house, in my jurisdiction, and I was recording them without their permission. I then subsequently contacted the ICO, and they said, you don't even need to ask permission, as long as it's for domestic and personal use. And I think it really needs to be a cultural change within, both the health authority and the local authority, to recognise that times have moved on, and technology has moved on, and this is one of the reasons that all I'm looking for is in a resolution to this matter is for the council to change its constitution, and in recognition of the fact that times have changed.
I understand that, Mr. Hussain, and if the ICO is giving you that advice, then it's probably correct.
Yes.
I don't think the ICO told you that you could share that with other parties.
Well, actually, what happened was that I spoke to the ICO officer, and he was being once again very cagey, saying that I said, could I have his email address? And he gives it, well, that's classed as personal information. Well, I said, I look to challenge that. I said, what about your telephone number? He gives it, maybe not. I put the direct question to the individual, the officer at the ICO. I said, imagine this, you and I, we meet at a Christmas party, and I take photographs of you in, let's say, while you're in an inebriated state, compromising photographs of you at this party, and I then post them onto my Facebook without your permission. What's your position on this? And he said, actually, it doesn't make any, I may not like that, but I can't stop you from doing that. Okay, so similarly, if I'm within my rights to record things for personal use, I'm within my rights to publicize them as well.
But we disagree, Mr. Hussain, and that's the advice I'm waiting for.
Yes. But in your opinion,
I understand you might want to record this conversation, but I am not giving you permission to share it with other parties.
That's a different thing. But I have a right to record. Permission, you may not choose to give permission, and I understand this, but I then can override your failure to give permission because I believe it's in the public interest.
Well, as I said, this is where we disagree. agree. But this is going through the same ground.
I totally agree with you. We agreed we wouldn't be discussing this, so that's fair enough. Can we move on to what my complaint is?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, as you know, in the past, I have complained primarily on behalf of my two family members, my mother and brother, and I've been liaising in the past, I believe in 2013 onwards, with your colleague Linda Wilson, and at that time when I looked to complain on behalf of relatives, they have asked me to get permission that I can do so. That's my normal position, is to more than complain about myself, is to complain about other people. In these circumstances, I once again would like to complain on behalf of other people, but the difference is this time that I will be basically the aspect I'm complaining about is this, that your manager is Kersten England, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
She's the CEO of Bradford Council, yes? But I wish to complain about Kersten England, not in her capacity as CEO of Bradford Council, but in her capacity as she's also the returning officer. Mm-hmm. Yes? So I wish to complain about her as a returning officer, because once again, as you can appreciate, Miss Arcus, you have one position, which is that you believe that your information, basically even your name and address, would be classified as personal information. But on the 10th of January, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I attended City Hall as an anonymous, just somebody off the street.
Sorry, when did you say that you attended? Sorry, I'm taking notes.
Yeah, sure, that's fine, yes. So on the 10th of January, I attended City Hall, and I told the receptionist that I wish to run for councillor for the Bolton and Undercliff constituency. Okay, so then without asking any further information, they advised me to go to the 3rd floor. All right, so I then went to the 3rd floor of Bradford Council, and I was greeted by another officer, a lady, who asked why I had come to why I had come in today, and I explained that I wish to run for the councillor position for the Bolton and Undercliff constituency. Accepting what I had said without any further inquiries, the officer returned after 10 minutes and gave me the full register of everybody's name and address in the Bolton and Undercliff constituency. Now, my complaint and that and.
Sorry, can I stop you there just because I'm taking notes?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Because you speak fast and I'm trying to catch up with it. So once you explained that to the officer on the 3rd floor, she went and returned with a list of everybody living in the area. But what exactly was the information in that list?
The information on that list was everybody's full name, address, and electoral number.
Sorry, thank you very much. As I said, I'm taking notes.
Okay, all right. Now, my issue is that information was made readily available to me without even me identifying who I was. All right. So that is the details of 11,600 residents of the Bolton and Undercliff constituency, which I now have the details of. All right. So my complaint, obviously, I cannot complain on behalf of all of them because I have no means to contact them. But on that list was also 3 names: my name, my mum's name, and my brother's name, and my home address. Okay, so that was so my complaint today is the fact that the local authority have handed over my personal information, my full name and address, my mum's full name and address, and my brother's full name and address, along with 11,600 names and addresses, to an individual whom you, the local authority, have convicted as a fraudster. And a fraudster of the most despicable kind, whom has defrauded officially his own parents and his disabled and vulnerable siblings. So officially, the position is that the fraudster is such an unscrupulous individual whom has defrauded his own family members to the tune of several £100,000, and yet there have been no measures put in place to prevent a potential fraudster, or not a convicted serving fraudster, with the personal details of 11,600 people in his local area.
Did anybody at any point ask your name?
Nope.
Interesting.
So nobody asked my name, and nobody questioned me. And as you may or may not know, Miss Arcus, I have a policy, my own domestic policy. Whenever I enter somebody else's jurisdiction, I always record the event. So this particular incident was recorded. And once you've acknowledged the terms of my complaint, I will be forwarding the actual encounter of how I walked into Bradford Council City Hall, how I went to the third floor, and what questions I asked, or what questions were put to me. In fact, the only thing that was asked of me was to sign a document. And they were not even going to give me the copy of this document. And the document that I had to sign, my understanding was like a receipt, but obviously it should be part of the process that once a prospective candidate member looks to come to the council building and request the register, that they should be made clear of the information or regarding the Data Protection Act, because it was only after I had personally requested a copy of the document that I had signed, because it's also my policy to take a copy of the document, any document I sign. It's only then that I read about the Data Protection Act.
Where do you read it? In the document, you mean?
Basically, I was handled a bundle of documents, but my obligations, legal obligations to that, my rights or my duty to that data was on a receipt which I had to sign, but which was not being given to me as part of the process. I had to manually request it.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so it was not explained to me, look, Mr. Joe Bloggs, these are your, if you want to run for candidacy for the local election, that's fine, but we're now going to disclose this information to you, and this is your obligation. Nothing like this. Even what was written down was not being given to me. I had to request the letter.
But so it's in the document, so you have to read this and then sign. It's in the receipt.
Well, I just had to, like I said, the full incident was recorded, and I will be forwarding that to yourself. Now, I'm just conscious of the fact that people's personal, basically the video that I'll be sending yourself is redacted with regards to the officer's face, because I have an ability to blur the face to protect. I'm just being extra cautious. So because I have not sought permission, as you would say, from the council officer. So what I've done is I've created a video and I've blurred the face, but you can then review the video and see exactly what happened.
I mean, it would be really helpful to know the actual name of the officer if you know it.
Well, like I said, they didn't give me their name. I didn't give them my name. Like I said, I think the best thing is to do is that if you have any questions, I think the lady will be easily identifiable. She will be easily identifiable to yourself, not to me though.
Oh no, we have means to find out. That's no problem.
Yes. So that's fine. Now, my complaint today is that I would like to lodge a complaint on behalf of not only my household, but on behalf of every single other name and address that you've disclosed to me. Okay, so what resolution I'm looking for if my complaint is upheld is for you to contact all the people's details that you've disclosed to me, and should my complaint be upheld, is to formally write and apologize to them.
Okay.
So
I'm making notes. Yeah.
Yes. So the resolution I'm looking for is a recognition that this has been a serious breach of data security, because just like yourself, Ms. Arcus, who believes that your personal details are your personal information and should not be disclosed to third parties without your permission, that surely must also hold as a principle to every single citizen, including ratepayers to the council, whom have not been consulted and yet have disclosed personal details which is identifiable under the Data Protection Act, which is a person's name and address, to just a random person. And in this particular instance, that random person happens to be a convicted fraudster, which you, the council, have convicted. So, do you understand where I'm coming from? Yes.
Absolutely. Mr. Hussein, and this is a valid point. That's the first thing I have to say. So I'm accepting this as a concern. Now, the way it's going to be looked into. We are going to look into this definitely, and it's going to be investigated. However, this is not a complaint per se. The only difference is the process that we are following, because, as you mentioned, this is potentially a data breach, and data breaches follow a different process. So it's not a complaint as you normally have the stage 1, etc., etc. It will be a complaint under data protection, which is slightly different. So, in essence, it's going to be looked into. You will receive a response, and then the difference is when if you want to take it further, rather than going to the ombudsman, you will go to the ICO.
I understand. Look, Miss Arcus.
But it won't be me because I don't deal, as you know, with the elections and the election governance team. So they will be coordinating this, not me. But you pass the information to me. I'm quite happy to take it on behalf of the council, and I will be passing it to my colleagues in governance.
Okay, all right.
And then you should be receiving a confirmation in writing.
Okay, all right. Well, this confirmation in writing that I wonder, like I said, Ms. Arcus, I mean, how you particularly choose to deal with this internally, because this is an internal matter. You're my point of contact as a member of the public, and so therefore I've lodged this with yourself. How you internally choose to deal with this is entirely up to yourselves. The complaint...
Technically, the contact for information governance issues is Max and Romain.
Yes, I understand, but
that's why I will pass this to.
Okay, all right. Now, like I said, Ms. Arcus, that's an internal matter. How you choose to handle this, but with regards to an acknowledgement, I am now not. I think there needs to be some clarity here. First of all, I am making a complaint on behalf of 11,600 residents. So an acknowledgement needs to be sent to all those people that a complaint today has been lodged on your behalf, and you can give my name and email address, that Mr. Hussein of this email address has today lodged a complaint on your behalf.
No, Mr. Hussein, we can't do that because we need the permission of these people.
Exactly.
Acting on his behalf.
That's exactly the question. That's exactly right, because I do know your processes. So the first point is that you need to contact these people and ask, do you grant permission?
No. You ask the complainant, need the permission. If you are telling me that you are complaining on their behalf, the ownership is on you to prove to the council that you are talking on behalf of these people, not the council. But
can you understand this is the point that I wanted to discuss with yourself. Now, I cannot practically go around. I'm not a councillor. You've not afforded me that opportunity to become a councillor, so I can go around and knocking on people's doors. Now, if there has to be a practical way of approaching this. I am now, as I want to be quite clear on this, I am lodging a complaint on behalf of 11,600 people whose name and address I hold, and in order for me to complain on their behalf, their permission has to be sought. I cannot practically seek their permission, and therefore, as a public authority, you've identified you're in a better position than myself to write to them and ask for that is permission granted. So the first point is the permission aspect. Now,
that's not one, because as you say, this is not going to be a complaint. It's a data breach, and it's a data breach we don't acknowledge, and so we will not be.
You don't. Excuse me. You don't acknowledge data breaches?
To the complainant, to you, we will. But at this moment in time, without investigating, we don't really know if it's...
Okay, look, Ms. Arcus. Like I said, I'm going to just tell you what my expectations are, and you can write to me and tell me X, Y, and Z, what your procedures and policies and everything else is. My expectations are this. I've today lodged a complaint. You fully understand the context of my complaint, yes? Okay, the next stage is that my expectations are that my details, my email address and my name be issued out. So I'm giving you permission to contact the people that have been affected by the data breach and inform them that this individual has contacted us on your behalf, explaining to us, the council, that a data breach has occurred where, and you can explain the details of my complaint to them, and then seek permission from them that are we okay to proceed forward or would forward. Now, you can choose to not do that, that's your choice, but that's the first aspect of making the subject of the data breaches aware that a data breach has occurred, and the details and obviously how it has occurred and to whom it has occurred. I believe that as part of this process, the video that I'll be releasing should be made available to those individuals affected by the data breach. So that's the first point. You can come back to me and say, well, after discussion with my seniors and X, Y, and Z, we're not going to be doing that. That's one point. That's your choice. So that's my position, that all of the people that have been affected directly need to be contacted and the situation explained to them, and also identified if they wish to give permission for me to proceed on their behalf. That's the first point. Once the complaint, or however you choose to handle it, is upheld, then what my expectations are is, once again, a second time, that all the individuals affected are to be given a formal apology for and advised of their rights, and that's up to them. How they choose to handle the data breach. So those are my expectations. I've clearly identified what has happened. You have accepted that would be investigated, and the next step is that you seek permission if that's a proper process, if you're willing to do so. And finally, what outcome I'm looking for is an acknowledgement that a data breach has happened, an apology given, particularly to my household, and an assurance that procedures or lessons will be learnt and procedures will be put in place that this doesn't happen again.
Sorry, just to clarify, the last point, I think I'm following everything, and obviously I'm writing notes, but so you want an apology to your mother and your sister for giving your mother and sister address to you?
I said not just to not my sister, my brother.
Okay, sorry,
yes, but not just to my. The outcome I'm looking to seek is because try to understand this, that just like Kersten England wears two hats. One hat is of a CEO of Bradford Council. The other hat that she wears is the returning officer.
I understand.
Yes, I similarly wear two hats. One hat I wear is as a convicted fraudster. So I'm not complaining on behalf of me wearing the convicted fraudster hat. I'm complaining as me being the resident. So basically, I have two hands. One hand is a fraudster, formerly convicted fraudster. The other hand is a private citizen. So therefore, I would expect the outcome to be the outcome of the investigation, once upheld, to be a formal recognition of what has happened and an apology to me as a citizen, that my data has been handed over to a convicted fraudster, a criminal, and a serving criminal, and a fraudster, but also that very same template letter to be given to my mum and brother and the remaining 11,600 other people that have been affected.
I can see the people, the other 11,000 people. I can see your point, but I'm just trying in terms of the apology. So you want an apology from the council that we're giving you the information about you and your family to you.
But no, try to understand this, because this is where the situation gets confusing. Just like Miss Kersten England wears two hats that may potentially be a conflict. I today would not be complaining about Kersten England if the position of the returning officer was Miss X. So therefore, it doesn't. But because she wears two hats, I also wear two hats. So it's not me, the person. I can have many roles.
I understand that. I'm talking in the practicalities of sending you a letter. The content of the letter, you want us to say, sorry about this, and for giving you the information about you. And
for giving the information to a convicted fraudster. So you can identify that individual not in me as Mr. Shazad Hussain, you can identify me in the general term.
But you still requested information, and your particular complaint for you, for your family, would be that we released information, if that's the case, to you about your family. Do you see what I mean?
No, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with what you're saying to me.
I'm trying to say, if this go ahead and then, as you request this, we write to everybody and apologize. I can see that for the other citizens.
Yes.
They didn't request, and they, but in terms of the letter that will go to you, that's where I'm trying to understand what the content will be. So because if you're asking for an apology, will be, Mr. Hussain, we identified this as a potential breach. You requested this information about your family.
No. See, when you say you, once again, the reason is that semantic of the word you, all right? Because in this context...
Council.
No, you as in me. When I often refer to you as the council, but when you're referring to me as you, because in this sentence, when you're saying you, we've given you need to clearly make the distinction between me, the private citizen, me, the convicted fraudster, and me, Joe Bloggs off the street. So there's three me's.
Mr. Hussain, that the letter will go to Mr. Hussain, full stop. It won't go Mr. Hussain, brackets, the convicted fraudster.
No, it can't go to the convicted fraudster because...
it will go to Mr. Hussain.
Yes, it will go to Mr. Hussain, yes.
That's what I mean. So Mr. Hussain, you requested information and...
No, when you said... Just hold on. When you said you, which you are you referring to? I did not... When I came to the Bradford Council office, it was not Mr. Hussain, it was Joe Bloggs, Mr. Anonymous. So when I came to Bradford Council to collect this, that was Mr. Anonymous, but then also that Mr. Anonymous could be Mr. Convicted Fraudster. All right?
Mr. Hussain, it wasn't me, it wasn't any other person, it was you who went to the council.
In my capacity, not in my capacity as Mr. Hussain, the resident, I went in my capacity as Mr. Hussain, Joe Public. And you handed the information, not knowing who I was, to potentially Mr. Fraudster.
I understand that, and as I said, we are going to investigate. My point was in terms of the apology letter that you want to receive.
Okay, all right. Well, let's for your convenience, Miss Arcus, if there is a stumbling block on this, you don't need to write to me. Okay, you can write to the 11,599 other people. Is that okay?
Okay, well that makes a bit
You do like to be very particular, Miss.
No, but let's be clear. No, jokes apart, Mr. Hussain, I am...
Just 1 second, please. Come. Sorry, go ahead.
So no, I'm just rounding the conversation just to ensure that we are clear. you've contacted me. Well, we agreed to talk to you today. You reported a potential breach under data protection. I am accepting this. As I said, I will pass it to the information governance team, and you will receive a confirmation in writing.
Okay, all right, okay. Once I've received the confirmation in writing from yourself, I want to be quite clear from my perspective that this complaint is in relation to the returning officer. Okay, so I'm complaining about the returning officer. Because the returning officer, whoever that happens to be, in this case it happens to be Kersten England, your manager, but whoever that happens to be, and even Miss Kersten England as the CEO has designed the processes and procedures in order to deal with elections, and so therefore the particular individual that I'm complaining about is the returning officer, and once you've written up what we've done today, I will be forwarding a copy of this conversation that we're having. Just one second. I will be forwarding a copy of this conversation with along with the video that I mentioned. Is that okay?
To whom? Sorry, because
I will be forwarding that in reply to your acknowledgement of this complaint.
Right. So the conversation that you're recording.
This conversation that we're having, yes.
Who are you sharing it with?
I'm sharing it with you.
Right.
And I'm also sharing the video with you just for your reference, because obviously I understand that you've been making notes and I have a tendency to speak very fast in case you missed anything, so you can review this conversation.
That's very kind. Thank you. But as I said, we'll put it in writing.
Yes, just in case you've missed anything, because obviously I don't write things down. I use the recording mechanisms to keep notes, you see, for my reference purposes. So just as a courtesy, I will be forwarding this to yourself, so you can look to the conversation again, try to understand what's happened if you haven't already understood so. And I will also be forwarding the video that I mentioned as evidence of what actually happened.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I don't think you need to send me the recording because I've been taking notes and I will put it in writing. So I think I understand the situation. So don't worry about the conversation, but by all means, if you want to send the video.
Okay, all right. Now, all right, that's fine. Thank you very much. That's all my complaint for today.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.
You too. Bye-bye.